The counselor wore a crisp blue blazer and a permanent smirk, the kind that looked like it had been trained in a mirror. She tapped her clipboard with a practiced rhythm as she scanned the room. "So," she chirped, "anyone else want to share?" "Their career goals." Elijah raised his hand. He knew what would happen the moment he said it, but he said it anyway. "I want to be a civil rights lawyer," he said, voice steady. "I want to fight systemic racism, especially in education and housing." There was a pause. The counselor tilted her head, then chuckled softly. "Well, someone's ambitious. Don't be so focused on the future, Elijah. Sometimes staying grounded is more realistic." The room rippled with muffled laughter. Elijah felt his spine stiffen. His smile came slow, stretched across his face like armor. He nodded politely. But under the desk, his hands clenched into fists. In that moment, he wasn't 17. He was 11 again, standing in a hallway where a teacher mistook him for a janitor's son. 13, accused of plagiarizing an essay that was too mature. 15, told by a college rep that schools like that don't usually fit our students. He'd been smiling for years, not because things were funny, but because the ultimate truth made people uncomfortable. The counselor moved on. The whiteboard gleamed behind her, clean and untouched. Elijah looked at it and saw himself, erased before he could even write his name, as the bell rang, and chairs scraped back across the floor. Elijah sat still for a moment longer. The laughter still echoed faintly in his head. His future hadn't changed, but he realized something else had. He was done smiling for their comfort, and he wouldn't stay erased. Not this time. Asterisk, asterisk. Elijah zipped up his hoodie against the cold, stepped into the wind. The school doors shut behind him, but the echo of laughter still trailed like a shadow. Each footstep on the cracked pavement carried the weight of something older than the counselors, smirked older than high school itself. He'd learned early on that visibility came with a cost. He remembered sophomore year, when his English teacher pulled him aside after class. "This essay is impressive, Elijah," she said, holding the paper like it was a lie. "Almost too impressive. Where did you get it from?" He blinked, unsure if she was joking. "I wrote it," he'd said. Quietly, she tilted her head, like she didn't hear him. "Did someone help you?" What she meant was, "This voice can't be yours." He hadn't told anyone, not his mum, not even Malik. Instead, he stopped submitting drafts, stopped raising his hand. He wasn't going to fight just to be doubted again, until someone needed help, and when his classmates asked for tutoring before finals, he gave it freely. The day after, one of them turned in a nearly identical paper, and guess who got pulled into the office? He passed that very classroom now. The blinds were drawn, the lights off, but the memory glowed at the corner. Elijah paused. A mural stretched across the brick wall. Black leaders, their names faded. Ella Baker, Fred Hampton, names that meant something, names the school never mentioned. He stood beneath them, wondering, would he end up forgotten too? A gust of wind tugged at his coat, but he didn't move. They only see me, he thought, when there's blame to give. But what happens when I speak on purpose? Asterisk, asterisk. The hallway buzzed with the usual morning chaos, slamming lockers, footsteps pounding tile, and voices rising above the bell. Elijah kept his head low, his backpack slung over one shoulder, fingers fumbling at the lock on his door. Click. He opened it, expecting nothing. Instead, a single sheet of lined paper fluttered down like a dead leaf. He caught it just before it hit the floor. Future lawyer, keep dreaming. Block letters pressed hard into the page, Elijah stared at it. Number, signature. No surprise. He folded the paper in half, then in half again, stuffing it into his jacket pocket like trash. Malik leaned against the neighboring locker, watching. Another anonymous fan. He asked, raising an eyebrow. Elijah said nothing. Malik moved closer. You know what this is, right? Elijah kept quiet. They scared, bro, Malik said calmly. Not cause you loud, not cause you wrong, cause you right, and they can feel it. Elijah exhaled, slow and controlled. He didn't feel rage, not like before. He felt heat, focused, rising heat. For years, he'd carried the weight of being misunderstood, of being too black, too smart, too quiet, too ambitious. But this was fuel. He closed his locker slowly, eyes narrowed not in defeat, but decision. Down the hall, someone laughed too loud. A few eyes glanced his way, but Elijah didn't flinch. He moved through the crowd like a tide pulling inward. There were things to be said, and now he was done whispering. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Miss Gloria's home smelled like lemon oil and worn books. The kind of place where history lived, not just in the framed photographs or dusty shelves, but in the silence between sentences. Elijah sat on her couch, fingers laced gaze, roaming the walls. There was a black and white photo of her in a picket line, one fist raised. A cracked frame held a newspaper. Clipping from 1972, local teacher removed 4 political statements. She moved slowly now, but her eyes, still sharp as glass. You heard what that counselor said? She asked, setting a chipped mug of tea in front of him. He nodded. Said I was too focused on the future. Ms. Gloria chuckled, but it wasn't amusement, it was memory. They've been saying that since before I had my first chalkboard, she said, lowering herself into the recliner. See, they say that, when they've already decided what you should become, and it don't include the power to change their world. Elijah looked at her. No laughter behind his eyes, just a quiet, burning recognition. She leaned forward. When they say you're too focused, what they mean is, you're not staying in the lane they made for you. He breathed in the steam rising from the mug. Don't get bitter, she added. Get better, louder, wiser. The afternoon light poured in behind her, casting her shadow long and defiant on the floor. Elijah didn't speak for a while. He didn't need to. He left her house with something new beneath his hoodie, not anger, not pain, but a truth that wrapped itself around him like armor. They feared his future, and now, so should their silence. The slide read, Martin Luther King Jr. advocated peace above all. A single line, polished, sanitized. Elijah stared at it, the corners of his mouth tightening. He raised his hand slowly, waited to be acknowledged. That's not the full story, he said, voice steady. Dr. King also spoke against economic injustice, against Vietnam. They called him a radical. The FBI labeled him a threat. The room fell quiet. The teacher, Mr. Chapman, adjusted his tie, blinking. Well, he began cautiously. There are many interpretations of history. Elijah tilted his head. That's not interpretation. That's omission. A few students looked down. One shuffled their papers. Another smirked, like Elijah was doing too much again. The bell rang. Backpacks zipped and chairs scraped. As Elijah stood, Mr. Chapman spoke without looking up. Elijah, could you stay a moment? The room emptied fast. Mr. Chapman crossed his arms. You're smart, he said quietly, but sometimes It's better not to make things political. In a learning environment, Elijah blinked. That wasn't political, he replied. That was the truth. The teacher gave a tight smile, the kind that means this conversation is over. But Elijah didn't sit back down. He didn't apologize. He turned and walked out, shoulders square, footsteps loud on purpose. Outside, the hallway buzzed with laughter and noise, but inside, something clicked into place. This wasn't just about history books. It was about who got to write them, and who was always asked to forget. He wouldn't forget. He wouldn't shrink. Not anymore. Asterisk. Asterisk, asterisk. The cursor blinked on Elijah's screen like a heartbeat. Midnight pulsed outside his window, and the glow from the laptop bathed his face in soft, electric blue. His reflection in the dark glass behind him looked older, tired, but clearer. He hit record. "My name is Elijah," he began, voice steady but low. "I've been told I'm too focused on the future, that I need to stay grounded. Translation, stay small." I cut his eyes locked on the camera, shoulders squared. But I've seen what silence does. I've seen who gets erased and who gets to write the story. Not this time. He wove his story like a case file, moments from school. The note in the locker, the words no teacher ever said out loud, but always implied. Behind his voice, images flickered. The mural of forgotten leaders, Ms. Gloria's living room, the whiteboard that never held his name. He called the video, "The Future You're Afraid Of." By morning, it had over 4,000 views. By lunch, the numbers doubled. Comments flooded in, some from classmates I never knew. Others, from strangers, keep speaking. "We see you." That afternoon, his phone rang. Ms. Gloria didn't say hello. She just sighed. "That video," she said, her voice tight with emotion. "That might be the most dangerous thing you've ever done." Elijah swallowed. "Why?" "Because you told the truth," she said. "And they don't know what to do when we stop asking permission to be whole." Elijah leaned back in his chair, the hum of the laptop still warm beneath his hands. He had no idea what would come next, but for the first time, he wasn't afraid of being seen. Asterisk, asterisk. The conference room was colder than it needed to be. White walls, white table, white noise humming from the ceiling vent. Elijah sat at one end, his back straight, hands folded, not clenched, on his notebook. No rage, just readiness. Across from him sat the principal, 2 assistant administrators, and the counselor from the workshop. Their smiles were tight, polite, the kind that smoothed discomfort without erasing it. "We appreciate you coming in, Elijah," the principal began. "We just want to have an open conversation about the recent video and some of the concerns." It raised. Elijah didn't blink. "You mean the truths?" It raised. A pause. One of the assistants leaned forward. "We're not here to punish you. We just think it's important to address tone, messaging, balance." Elijah tilted his head. "Was anything I said incorrect?" The room shifted. The counselor cleared her throat. "You're obviously very bright, Elijah, but when things are framed so strongly, it creates tension that may not be helpful." He looked directly at her. "Why is ambition dangerous in my skin, but leadership in someone else's?" No one answered. Not out loud. He let the silence do its job. Then he stood. This wasn't about being loud. It was about being heard. That's what scared people. The principal offered a final weak smile. "We just want peace, Elijah." He met her eyes. "So do the first, but peace without truth is just quiet injustice." He left the room calmly, not angry, not afraid, just sure of what he already knew. The truth shakes rooms when you're not expected to speak it. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The auditorium was packed. Folding chairs filled edge to edge. Students leaning forward, some standing in the back. A low buzz of anticipation rippled through the crowd as Elijah took the stage. He wore no suit, no flashy logo, just a charcoal sweater and confidence that wrapped around him like armor behind him. A large banner read, "Youth Futures Summit, building tomorrow now." In front of him sat faces like his, faces that had been overlooked, faces that had questions. He cleared his throat. "A while back, someone told me I was too focused on the future, that I should lower my sights, and for a while I did." The room was quiet, but then I realized the issue wasn't that I saw too far, it's that they refused to. He shared pieces of his story. The note in the locker, the teacher who asked him not to be political, the meeting in the white conference room where silence meant survival. He didn't name names. He didn't need to when he finished. A moderator stepped forward with a microphone for questions. A hand rose in the third row, a girl, maybe 16, soft voice but steady eyes. "What do you say?" she asked. "Two people who think you expect too much." Elijah didn't rush the answer. He took a breath, then he smiled. "Not the guarded one from the workshop months ago, a real one, I just reply," he said, letting the pause stretch like a bridge to everyone listening. "I've already seen. The future, it has my name on it." The room erupted not into noise, but standing silence, the kind that says, "We hear you, we feel seen," and for the first time, Elijah didn't just feel heard, he felt home.